So I've had to rebuild my life from the ground up at 43, and I'm about to be 44 next month. And I want to talk a little bit about that because I think it's really important for those of us in our 40s and 50s to start to tell our stories more about how many of us are having to remake our lives in very different ways at ages that we were fed and told when we were younger we should already be quote unquote successful and settled if we just follow a certain order of a script, right? And that script was go to college, get good debt, go work afterwards, work and hustle, work your way up some kind of ladder, get a partner, get married, have a kid, buy the house, get the 401k, and all life will be happy and gay, right? And many of us did that. And it's gotten us where we are now in a lack of safety and security and having to now really think about what does it mean to live and remake a life at this age. And so for me, that's what I'm doing. I'm rebuilding my life literally from the ground up. I was formerly in higher ed as an academic, from student to staff. Then I was in administration and faculty as an anthropologist by training. And I was quote unquote successful, like I built an office, built an institute, built centers, trained staff, created new concepts that we enacted that had complete efficacy, published on those things, got over $7 million worth of grants, trained presidents, president staffs, board of trustees. I have helped people become provosts and presidents on their own right. I even have 2 goddamn awards named after me, right? I found out after I left one institution. And I say that not to quote unquote brag, it's just me listing my CV, right? It's just facts. But that CV did not really tell the full story, and that all that quote unquote success, it brought me no happiness. I was always chasing something new, something more, always feeling like it wasn't good enough. And those institutions ensured that you never really felt like you could just stop and reflect. It was always something else. Then I got my ass handed to me, right? I had to start to believe my reality because all of that theorizing about justice, right? And the practice of justice, when you are the harbinger of change, I was always adamant that we need to put theory into practice, and that is what these concepts we were developing and enacting through these locations were doing, right? Well, then change means something has to change. But I realized very quickly, because my last job was at Brown, I was in the fucking Ivies, people love a good theory because it'll get you at the seat of power because you don't want to flip that goddamn table. You want to be at that table. Well, baby, that table to me is a raggedy ass structure. Not only do I want to flip it, I want to break that bitch and remake it in a different way. Then I got my ass handed to me because I realized that people are cowards. People are cowards. And I didn't realize I was not cowardly until I got my ass handed to me. And so I decided to leave and build my own way. So I was like, I'll just make my own business, right? I'll construct something. If I can build in somebody else's house and the house will take it, then what looks like if I then took that back and made myself the house to create. So then we moved. I moved with my now ex. And in all that stillness of not always chasing the job and trying to remake the first part of my life, that is when I had time to reflect and really ask myself, was this relationship for me? Because I've been on rocky ground for years, but we were playing the same script too, that we were told, if you get married, you got to stay married. We had a kid. We were both trying to perform this script that was honestly keeping us both more miserable. And then it broke. Then it broke when a question came to me one night when I was in a house that I had just taken a good chunk of my retirement money out of to put a down payment on, so that I could prove that I still had value in a relationship since I was no longer working in an institution. I was trying to create my own, right? In that stillness and the miserableness, a question came in and it said, bitch, are you straight? Not are you gay? It was like, are you straight? And an unexpected answer literally came gutturally out of my belly through my mouth, and it said no. And through a bunch of tears and a long few months of trying to figure out what it could be through couples therapy, I decided to leave. And that divorce, because we were together for 15 years, broke me. It broke me in all kinds of ways I didn't realize. It broke my spirit because some things that I had thought he finally admitted to. And it doesn't feel good to quote unquote be right. I didn't want to be right. I wanted to be loved. I didn't want it to be right. I wanted to be held. And I realized when that couldn't happen, right, I had to then figure out what it was going to be like to be on my own, and that was when I left when I was 40 as well, about to be 41. And that divorce broke me financially. I lost everything. I lost everything because I was fighting custody across state lines, and what was more important to me was me being able to have joint custody with my child with him, along with having my books. I wanted my child and my books, my art. That's really all it was. So I lost that house. I lost more than half that money in that the account we did have, and that shit quickly left because I was building a business from the ground up. But then I also had to realize something. I was coming out as a Black queer woman at 40, 41, trying to start my own business, and on the precipice of a Trump administration, because the Biden administration toward the end, it was getting very clear that we were going to go right back to conservative once again, and I felt that in my business. So the first iteration of my business with the contracts I had and the locations I was in, that shit dried up. That started drying up in August of last year. People were already anticipating Trump was going to be elected, so institutions were already trying to fall in line so they weren't going to get hit as bad. That's what people don't want to talk about. People were already anticipating it. So talk about financial strains, right? Very, very, very tight post-divorce, trying to navigate a whole new life. And so I'm remaking my life right now, right? That's just a little piece of it. I've moved into, I moved in with other folks. All of us are queer, all of us are artists, because we're all trying to remake our lives at 43, trying to figure out what does it mean for us to really create the world we say we want to live in and do it our way, because I refuse to give up. I refuse to give up to the nihilism, right? That's what the state wants. It wants us to keep offering ourselves up to it, and I'm too fucking stubborn. I'm not gonna give myself up to a raggedy ass structure. If we're all gonna go down, then I'm gonna go down my goddamn way, right? Living and dreaming and working with the technologies that were always with us. And so in all of this kind of remaking and breaking, I could no longer bifurcate myself. I've always been a spiritualist. I've always been someone that's talked with spirit since I was a kid. And then I went through a long process of being trained in various traditions by various teachers and priests. At the same time that I was also getting heavily trained in the academy, doing my PhD and then post-PhD with all the research I've done, right? And then also always being somebody who loved art and words and poetry and the like. And so what this new iteration of my life has shown me is that I can't separate them. That's what I've made my businesses into, this amalgamation of all of me and kind of what I want to create and leave as a legacy. So that's my Embodied Futures Lab and my Dream Praxis studio. It's a whole new methodology. I created all my own methodology, Embodied Strategic Dreaming, based upon this whole kind of story that I've briefly told. So this is a long video. If you made it this far, thanks for listening. And I'm telling more stories. I'm telling more stories on my Patreon, on my shows, and in my writing. I'm writing a book right now as well. And it's a series. It's actually the first of 3 that I've already been able to map out. And so even though all this shit is scary, even though my money is tighter than shit, because I'm, again, rebuilding from the ground up in a different way, it's also the most free I've ever been. And that's something that I'm holding on to, this sense of freedom, even in times of constriction and despair. So write new stories, y'all, write new scripts, live them out, and then express them. And in that expression, we create new worlds in that way. We give permission. We have new times open up. We can truly time travel, but not in this fantastical way. Time travel requires you being so fully into your body, believing your reality, that the only thing you can do is act differently. And in that acting differently, time shifts, time changes, timelines are created. So what are the timelines you're creating through the stories that you are writing for yourself that you dare to live, that you dare to perform, that you dare to embody? And if you dare to embody them, please dare to speak them. Mercury in Leo right now is retrograde, but it'll go direct. Let that light shine. Thanks for watching.